After looking at the history of Christianity for the last 2,000 years and the importance that the Christian religion has provided in helping to shape Western culture, and looking at all the challenges and the changes within Christianity over the course of those 2,000 years, especially over the course of the last 500 years, it's interesting to note many of the current trends in regards to religious affiliation, especially in America. If we were to look at Europe 50 years ago, I think you'll note what is happening right now in America religiously. The young people are not staying in church, generally speaking, and America continues to get less religious. And what does this mean? What does this mean for the future of the Christian religion? Well, it's probably not too hard to discern that the further the individual gets away from the church, the more divergent religious views become for those individuals in general. A common phrase for those who are not a part of any religious organization is something like, I'm spiritual but not religious. And if you look at the beliefs of people that say stuff like that, it's very rarely very Christian at all. And so there's still a continuing spirituality in America. However, affiliation with actual church groups is dwindling fairly significantly. We're going to be looking now at CBS Sunday Morning's decline of religious affiliation, especially amongst younger people.
According to a new study by the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life, the nation's spiritual landscape may be becoming a little less religious. Some 45 million people, that's 1/5 of the U.S. adult population, now say they belong to no church in particular. 6% of them are either atheist or agnostic.
There's a yearning to find like-minded people, to be able to have a conversation that's not taboo. How did you end up finding the group?
We met Red McCall last month. He's the president of an atheist group in the Buckle of the Bible Belt, Oklahoma City.
We're not anti-religious, but we're pro-secular.
In just the past 3 years, membership has jumped from just 300 members to well over 1,000.
I do think it's getting better.
Shelley Reese, a college professor, is one of them. She says the public mood on atheists is changing, even here.
There were still people when we were marching in the parade at Halloween yelling out, "You're going to hell," and stuff like that. But there were more people who weren't. And I think that's going to keep going. I think that's the trend.
Researchers call them the nones, those who check the none box when asked to describe their religious affiliation. And they've doubled since 1990.
We're not necessarily becoming more secular, are we?
I mean, maybe a little bit.
Carrie Funk is the senior researcher on that Pew study and says it's a complicated question because being unaffiliated isn't necessarily the same as not having faith.
68% of the unaffiliated say they believe in God or a universal spirit. More than 1/3 describe themselves as spiritual people, but not religious people.
And a good portion of them still say they pray.
And a good portion pray, at least daily.
So if it's not God or the thought of a higher power that's turning people off, just what is? The study suggests that it's organized religion, with respondents overwhelmingly saying many organizations are just too focused on money, power, and politics. Protestants have suffered the greatest decline. They now account for just 48% of religious adults, making it the first time in history that the United States doesn't have a Protestant majority.
Every time I walk in here, I'm like, I can't not believe this place is this large.
How many people does it see?
Over 4,000 people.
Evangelical churches aren't immune either.
All right, is everybody ready for
The mega churches, once bursting at the seams, are a little less mega than they used to be.
We're seeing church attendance being much more inconsistent than I've ever seen it in my entire life.
Well, today, Lisa, we embark on the
Ed Young is the senior pastor of the Fellowship Church, based in Dallas.
The Bible talks a lot about the enjoyment of sex.
He's hardly conventional, even preaching a sermon with his wife while sitting on a double bed.
It's God. Whenever he does that, he's saying, Amen.
It's his attempt not at a gimmick, he says, but to reach those who these days find organized religion at its best irrelevant, and its worst intolerant.
I don't think we have been vulnerable enough. I don't think we have been real enough about issues and about life. You have to realize that the church is pretty much one generation away from extinction.
Indeed, it's the young, 1 out of every 3 persons surveyed, in fact, under the age of 30, who say they don't link themselves with any organized religion. Compare that with the greatest generation, where only 1 in 20 claimed no religious home.
We're in kind of a post-denominational phase, I think, in many ways in the United States. So religion is very diverse, clear differences between Zen Buddhists and Mormons.
Charles Kimball is the director of religious studies at the University of Oklahoma. While he says most of his students still respect religious organizations as a power to do good in the world, it's often their stands on social issues, especially abortion and gay rights, that he feels are driving the young away.
The vast majority of students, even people coming out of pretty traditional religious backgrounds, don't see these as a big deal. They don't get what's the issue here, don't understand it.
In my experience, a lot of my friends have become nuns because...
We gathered a few of his students together. All said they believe in God, but agreed that organized religion has largely failed to adapt to a changing culture. Carly Houtling grew up a conservative Christian.
I don't understand, how a loving God can send people to hell. I'm pretty sure if I disobeyed my parents, they would not throw me in the fireplace.
I go to a church here in Norman.
J.C. Fisher was raised Methodist, and he still goes to church, but only about once a month.
Because there's so much bureaucracy and rules and things that a church has to do that don't necessarily fit with the beliefs or the tenets that they preach.
So I've sort of taken
Martha Fulton grew up Baptist, went to Catholic schools, and for the moment attends a Methodist church.
And so, while I wouldn't say that I'm really strongly affiliated with a church I go to now, I do feel that I get something out of it. And it's sort of like when a person says that they're single and looking rather than just single and not ever hoping to find anything else.
There are plenty of alternatives for those looking to worship in a more individual way. One of the most popular holiday services in New York City this time of year is a revival of the ancient solstice rituals at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Paul Winner leads that celebration.
It's kind of interesting. The Winter Solstice Festival, as shown there at the very end of this clip, takes place in the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City. This is a fairly large Episcopalian church, so big, in fact, that it is the 6th largest church building on the face of the planet in terms of square footage, area-wise. It looks as if the commitment to the historic Christian faith in the United States is on the decline. One more very brief video after this to sum up what we've learned in the entire class.